Did you know that God has already ordained abundance for your life? That's right. Your life isn't meant to be a constant struggle for survival. Instead, it's designed to flourish with purpose, joy, and divine blessings in ways that touch every corner of your existence. Whether it's in your finances, your relationships, or the unique mission you've been called to fulfill, the promise of abundance is already written into the fabric of your being. Take a moment to reflect on that. Imagine the weight of worrying about the future being lifted from your shoulders. Picture stepping into a life where you're not just getting by, but thriving, because you understand that abundance isn't something you have to earn through endless striving. It's a divine promise, a gift that's been waiting for you all along. And why is this promise so certain? Because you were chosen. Yes, you. Chosen for prosperity, purpose, and blessings beyond what you can even imagine right now. Let's talk about what that means. Being a chosen one isn't about being perfect or never making mistakes. It's about being handpicked by God, equipped with a unique purpose that carries spiritual guarantees. These guarantees aren't just vague ideas or wishful thinking. They're the foundation of what you've been created to experience. You were never meant to live in lack or fear. You were meant to rise above challenges, to access the fullness of life that comes with being aligned with divine promises. Let me share a story that brings this to life. Picture a young shepherd boy named David. He wasn't the tallest, the strongest, or the most likely candidate for greatness by human standards, yet he was chosen, anointed to be king. At the time, it didn't make sense. He was tending sheep in the fields, overlooked by even his own family. But God saw something in him that no one else did, and that's exactly how God sees you. David's journey to the throne wasn't smooth. He faced battles, betrayals, and seasons of doubt. But through it all, the promise over his life never wavered. He was destined for abundance, for leadership, and for a legacy that would echo through generations. What about your story? Maybe you feel stuck in a season where you're overlooked or undervalued. Maybe you're working hard, but not seeing the fruits of your labor. It's easy to wonder, am I really meant for more? The answer is a resounding yes. Just like David, you were chosen. And being chosen means that no obstacle, no delay, and no failure can cancel out the promise that's already on your life. Here's the beauty of it. Abundance doesn't always show up in the way we expect. Sometimes it begins with a shift in perspective. A moment when you stop seeing yourself as limited by circumstances and start recognizing the limitless resources available to you through faith. It's not about chasing wealth or success in the way the world defines it. It's about aligning yourself with God's definition of abundance, which always includes peace, purpose, and provision. This promise isn't just for the people who seem to have it all together. It's for everyone. It's for you. No matter where you've been or what you've faced, the promise of divine abundance is just as real for you as it was for David, as it is for anyone else walking in faith. Let's bring it back to your life today. What if you chose to believe that you're already equipped with everything you need to step into your destiny? What if you decided right now to embrace the truth that you are worthy of abundance, not because of anything you've done, but because of who God is and what He's promised? This isn't just motivational talk, it's a call to action, to trust, to believe, and to step forward, even when the path seems uncertain. Because when you do, you'll begin to see doors open, connections form, and resources flow in ways you couldn't have orchestrated on your own. Let's talk about something so many of us face, but rarely admit out loud. Exhaustion. Not the kind of tiredness that a good night's sleep can fix, but the deep weariness that comes from striving endlessly, trying to make life work through sheer effort. Maybe you've been there, or maybe you're there right now, caught in a cycle of pushing, planning, and worrying, only to feel like you're running in place. It's heavy, isn't it? That weight of always needing to do more, to be more. But what if I told you that it doesn't have to be this way? That the struggle you've been fighting doesn't define your story? Here's the truth. God never intended for you to carry that burden alone. In fact, He never asked you to. So often we get caught up in this belief that if we don't keep striving, if we don't figure everything out ourselves, we'll somehow miss out. But that's not faith, that's fear in disguise. There's something incredibly freeing about trusting in God's timing. It's not about giving up or becoming passive. It's about releasing the need to control every detail and letting God's plan unfold in its perfect way, at its perfect pace. Think about it. Have you ever planted a seed in the ground and expected it to sprout overnight? Of course not. You know it takes time for the roots to grow beneath the surface, for the soil to nourish it, for the sunlight to do its work. The same is true for your life. There are seeds of blessings, opportunities and breakthroughs that have already been planted for you, but if you're constantly digging them up, trying to force them to grow on your timeline, you'll only delay the harvest that was meant for you all along. Trusting God's timing isn't always easy, especially when life feels uncertain or when you've been waiting longer than you hoped. But there's beauty in the wait. There's growth happening in you, even when you don't see it. There's preparation taking place, shaping you into the person you need to be to fully receive what's coming. Consider this, the story of Sarah and Abraham. They were given a promise, a child, a legacy, as countless as the stars. But the waiting was long, and in their human impatience, they tried to take matters into their own hands. The result? Frustration, complications, and unnecessary heartache. And yet, even then, God's promise remained. When the time was right, His time, not theirs, Isaac was born. The lesson here is clear. God doesn't forget His promises. He doesn't leave you hanging. But He does ask you to trust, even when the timeline doesn't match your expectations. When you lean into God's timing, something incredible happens. The weight of striving begins to lift. You stop feeling like you're swimming against the current and start realizing that the current was always there to carry you. Provision flows in ways you couldn't have planned, and doors open that you didn't even know existed. This doesn't mean life becomes effortless in the sense that you'll never face challenges. But it does mean you'll experience a sense of ease, an assurance that you're exactly where you need to be, and that everything you're waiting for is on its way. So here's the invitation. What if you stopped fighting the clock and started trusting the one who holds time in His hands? What if you shifted your focus from what you don't have yet to what God is already doing, even in the unseen? You're not behind, you're not forgotten, and you're certainly not on your own. The end of your struggle begins the moment you choose to surrender the timeline and trust that what's meant for you will find you right on time. Now let's talk about activating your abundance, because it's not just about waiting, it's about stepping into the flow of faith and allowing God's promises to manifest in your life. But how do you do that? How do you go from knowing abundance is possible to actually living it out every single day? It all begins with faith. Faith is the key that unlocks the doors to God's blessings, the bridge that connects where you are now to where He wants to take you. And the best part? Faith isn't about having everything figured out. It's about trusting in God's plan even when the path ahead seems unclear. But here's the question. How do you strengthen that faith when life feels uncertain or when doubt tries to creep in? One powerful way is through gratitude. It might sound simple, but gratitude is transformational. When you begin to thank God for what you already have, even before you see the full manifestation of His promises, it shifts your perspective. Gratitude moves you from a mindset of lack to a mindset of abundance. It aligns your heart with the truth that God is already at work in your life. Another way to strengthen your faith is through prayer. Not just the kind of prayer where you bring a list of requests, but the kind where you sit in God's presence and allow Him to speak to your heart. Prayer isn't about perfect words. It's about connection. It's in those moments of quiet surrender that your faith is renewed, your spirit is strengthened, and your trust in His plan grows deeper. Then there's the act of speaking life over your situation. Words have power. When you declare God's promises out loud, when you say, "I am blessed, I am chosen, I am walking in divine abundance," you're not just repeating empty phrases. You're aligning your thoughts, your actions, and even your environment with the truth of what God has already said about you. And let's not forget faith in action. Trusting God doesn't mean sitting back and waiting for everything to fall into your lap. It means taking steps forward, even when you can't see the full picture. Maybe it's pursuing that dream He placed in your heart, reaching out to someone you feel led to connect with, or simply showing up with excellence in the opportunities He's already given you. Faith isn't passive, it's active. It's a partnership with God where you say, "I trust you enough to move, even when I don't have all the answers." Now, let me share something incredible about faith. It creates space for miracles. There are countless stories of people who saw impossible doors open because they dared to believe. Maybe it's a business idea that seemed too big, but through faith it flourished. Maybe it's a financial breakthrough that came right when it was needed most. There's a story in the Bible about a widow who had nothing left but a small jar of oil. She was preparing for the worst, believing her resources were about to run out. But when the prophet Elisha told her to gather jars and start pouring, she obeyed in faith, and as she poured, the oil didn't stop flowing until every jar was filled. That's what faith does. It activates abundance. It takes what seems small and stretches it beyond what you could ever imagine. And this isn't just something that happened in ancient times, it's happening today. I've seen people step out in faith to give generously, even when their circumstances didn't seem to allow it, and they were blessed tenfold in return. I've seen individuals trust God with their careers, only to be led to opportunities that exceeded their wildest dreams. Faith is the foundation of abundance because it opens your heart to receive what God has already prepared for you. It allows you to see beyond the natural into the supernatural. So, what about you? What's one step of faith you can take today? Maybe it's choosing to believe that God's promises are true for you, even if your current circumstances suggest otherwise. Maybe it's letting go of fear and stepping into the opportunities He's placed before you. Or maybe it's simply saying, "Lord, I trust you," and taking that trust with you into every decision, every challenge, and every moment. Your abundance is waiting, and the key to unlocking it is already in your hands. It's your faith, your willingness to believe, to act, and to trust in the one who has never failed to keep His promises. Let's take a moment to talk about something that holds so many people back without them even realizing it: the scarcity mindset. It's that nagging voice that whispers, "Is it okay to want more? Should I feel guilty for desiring financial success? What if there's only so much to go around and I'm taking from someone else by asking for abundance?" These questions, these doubts, they're incredibly common. Many of us have been taught, directly or indirectly, that wanting wealth or financial success is somehow selfish or unspiritual. But let me ask you this: does that line up with the God you know? The truth is, God is a God of abundance, not lack. He didn't create this world in pieces or half measures. He created it overflowing with beauty, resources, and potential. Look around at nature, the way trees bear fruit in season, the way rivers flow without ceasing, the way the sun rises every day without fail. Scarcity isn't part of His design, abundance is. Now, let's tackle the heart of the fear. Is it okay to desire financial success? The short answer is yes, absolutely. But here's the key: it's about the why behind the desire. Money in and of itself is neutral. It's neither good nor bad. It's simply a tool. What matters is how you use it and the role it plays in your life. Take a look at some of the most prominent figures in the Bible. Abraham, for instance, was incredibly wealthy in livestock, silver, and gold. King Solomon was blessed with riches and wisdom beyond measure. Job, after enduring unimaginable loss, was restored with even greater wealth than he had before. And these aren't just stories about material riches. They're reminders of how wealth can be used for good. Abraham's abundance allowed him to care for his household and bless others. Solomon's riches supported the building of the temple, a lasting legacy of worship and devotion. And Job's restoration wasn't just about his personal gain. It was a testament to God's faithfulness, inspiring countless generations to trust in His provision. The point is this: wealth, when aligned with God's purpose, becomes a channel for blessings, not just for you, but for others. It gives you the ability to sow into His kingdom, to lift up those in need, and to create opportunities that bring glory to Him. But here's where the scarcity mindset tries to trip us up. It tells us that there's only so much to go around, that if one person prospers, it somehow takes away from someone else. That's not how God's economy works. His blessings aren't limited. He's not rationing out abundance, deciding who gets a little and who gets a lot. No, His resources are infinite, and He has more than enough for everyone. So, what does it take to break free from this mindset? It starts with recognizing the lies you've been believing about wealth and replacing them with God's truth. Scarcity says, "You'll never have enough." God says, "I will supply all your needs according to my riches in glory." Philippians 4:19. Scarcity says, "Wanting more is selfish." God says, "I came that you may have life and have it more abundantly." John 10:10. It's also important to shift your focus from lack to gratitude. When you focus on what you don't have, you're operating out of fear. But when you focus on what God has already given you, no matter how big or small, you're opening the door for Him to pour out even more. Gratitude is like a magnet for abundance. And finally, remember that breaking the scarcity mindset isn't just about finances. It's about stepping into abundance in every area of life, your relationships, your purpose, your time, and yes, your resources. It's about understanding that God's blessings aren't meant to stop with you. They're meant to flow through you, reaching others and building His kingdom. So let go of the fear. Release the guilt. Desire financial success if it's aligned with God's will for your life. Because when you're walking in His purpose, your success becomes a blessing to everyone around you. You were never meant to live in lack. You were created for abundance, and that's something you can embrace with confidence, knowing it's part of His divine plan for you. Let's talk about financial freedom, not just as a goal, but as a reflection of God's love for you. Too often we separate our spiritual lives from our financial lives, as if the two exist on completely different planes. But here's the truth. Wealth, when aligned with God's purpose, is a divine gift. It's a tangible expression of His care, His provision, and His desire for you to live a life that's not just surviving, but thriving. Think about it. When you're free from the constant stress of financial strain, when your needs are met and when there's overflow, you're able to focus on what really matters. Financial freedom isn't about chasing material things. It's about having the resources and peace of mind to live out your higher calling. God's love for you isn't just theoretical, it shows up in practical ways. In the Bible, Jesus teaches us to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread." That prayer isn't just about physical sustenance. It's a reminder that God cares about your everyday needs. He's not indifferent to the bills you have to pay, the responsibilities you carry, or the dreams you're working toward. He knows exactly what you need and wants to provide for you in ways that remind you of His faithfulness. Financial freedom, then, is about stepping into alignment with that care. It's about allowing God to bless you, not so you can hoard wealth, but so you can live in peace and be a blessing to others. Imagine how much lighter your heart would feel if you weren't constantly worried about making ends meet. Imagine how much more focused you could be on your purpose, on serving, giving, and loving when you're not tied down by financial burdens. Take a moment to reflect on this. Financial freedom is not just about what you get, it's about what you're able to give. When you're no longer in survival mode, you have the capacity to show up for others in powerful ways. You can give generously to those in need, support causes that align with your values, and invest in building a better future, not just for yourself, but for your community. Let's look at some examples of this from Scripture. Joseph is a perfect illustration. Through his God-given wisdom, he rose to a position of influence and managed the wealth of an entire nation. Because of his financial stewardship, countless lives were saved during a time of famine. His prosperity wasn't for his own benefit, it was a reflection of God's care for the people around him. Or take the early church in the book of Acts. Those who had more shared with those who had less, creating a community where no one was in need. Their generosity wasn't forced, it flowed out of their understanding that every resource they had was a gift from God, meant to reflect His love and provide for others. This is what financial freedom allows you to do. It enables you to shift your focus from survival to impact, from worrying about yourself to lifting others up. And that ultimately is one of the greatest ways we can reflect God's love, by being His hands and feet in a world that so desperately needs hope. But let me be clear, financial freedom doesn't mean you'll never face challenges. It doesn't mean you'll wake up one day with all your dreams handed to you on a silver platter. What it does mean is that as you trust God with your resources and align your actions with His will, you'll experience a kind of freedom that transcends the ups and downs of life. It's the freedom to rest in the assurance that your needs will be met no matter what, and to use what you've been given to make a difference. Financial freedom is a reflection of God's love because it shows that He's not just concerned about your spiritual life. He cares about your whole life. He wants you to live with joy, purpose, and abundance. And when you step into that freedom, you're not just receiving His blessings, you're multiplying them, sharing them, and creating a ripple effect that reaches far beyond yourself. So ask yourself, what would financial freedom look like in your life? How would it feel to no longer be weighed down by the stress of scarcity? And most importantly, what could you do for others if you were living in the overflow? The beauty of it all is that this freedom isn't something you have to chase endlessly. It's something you step into by trusting God, by aligning your resources with His purpose, and by understanding that wealth at its core is simply a reflection of the limitless love He has for you. When we talk about abundance, it's easy to focus on money. After all, financial stability is important. It allows us to meet our needs, support our families, and make an impact. But here's the thing. Divine abundance isn't limited to the size of your bank account. God's idea of wealth is far bigger, richer, and more fulfilling than money alone. What if I told you that abundance is about living in overflow in every area of your life? Yes, financial freedom is part of it, but true prosperity extends far beyond that. It includes vibrant health, deep joy, meaningful relationships, and the ability to walk in your purpose with confidence and peace. Let's start with health. What good is financial wealth if you're too sick or stressed to enjoy it? Your body is a temple, a gift from God, and He wants you to thrive physically. Abundance means having the energy and vitality to pursue your dreams, care for your loved ones, and live fully present in each moment. It's about making choices that honor your body, nourishing it with healthy food, moving it in ways that feel good, and resting when you need to. Now, let's talk about joy. Not fleeting happiness that comes and goes with circumstances, but deep, unshakable joy. The kind of joy that comes from knowing you're loved by God, that you're walking in alignment with His purpose, and that no matter what happens, you are held by His grace. Joy is one of the greatest indicators of true abundance. It's not tied to how much you have or what's happening around you. It flows from within, rooted in gratitude and trust. And what about relationships? Relationships are one of the most profound ways we experience God's abundance. Think about the people in your life who uplift you, challenge you, and walk alongside you in love. Healthy, thriving relationships are a form of wealth that no amount of money can buy. When you're surrounded by love, whether it's family, friends, or a supportive community, you're experiencing divine provision in action. But here's the beautiful thing. Just like financial wealth, these other forms of abundance aren't meant to stop with you. When you're walking in health, joy, and love, you have the capacity to pour into others. Your joy becomes contagious. Your relationships inspire others to seek connection. Your health allows you to serve in ways that make a difference. This is what it means to live in overflow. It's about recognizing that abundance is holistic. It touches every part of your life. And the more you align yourself with God's plan, the more you'll see that He doesn't just want you to get by in these areas. He wants you to thrive. Now maybe you're thinking, that sounds great, but I don't feel like I'm living in that kind of abundance right now. If that's you, let me encourage you. Abundance doesn't always show up all at once. It's something you grow into as you deepen your faith, align your choices with God's principles, and trust in His timing. Start by taking stock of where you already see abundance in your life, even in small ways. Maybe it's the friend who checks in on you, the moments of peace you find in nature, or the strength to get through a challenging day. Gratitude has a way of magnifying the blessings you already have, opening the door for even more to flow in. Next, ask God to help you embrace a holistic view of abundance. Pray not just for financial provision, but for wisdom in your decisions, for healing in your body, for restoration in your relationships, and for joy that surpasses understanding. God cares about the whole picture, and when you surrender every part of your life to Him, you'll start to see His hand at work in ways you never expected. And finally, live in alignment with overflow. What does that mean? It means living as though you already have the abundance you desire, not in a fake it till you make it kind of way, but in faith. Speak life over your health, your joy, your relationships, and your finances. Treat others with generosity, even if you feel like you have little to give. Show up in your relationships with love and forgiveness, trusting that God will restore what's been broken. Because here's the thing about overflow, it starts in your heart. When you allow God's love and abundance to fill you from the inside out, it naturally spills over into every other part of your life. Abundance is your birthright as a child of God. It's not just about wealth, it's about living fully, thriving in every area, and being a vessel of His blessings for the world around you. When you step into overflow, you're not just receiving, you're becoming a reflection of the abundant life God has always intended for you. Let's talk about something that we all have to deal with at some point on this journey toward abundance: the critics, the doubters, and the naysayers. No matter how strong your faith or how clear your vision, there will always be people who question your choices, mock your blessings, or doubt your ability to succeed. And let's be real, those voices can be discouraging. But here's the truth. Criticism is part of the process. It's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's often a sign that you're doing something right. When you step into abundance and start living in alignment with God's promises, there will be people who can't understand it. And that's okay. The key is to not let their negativity derail your faith or cause you to second-guess what God has already spoken over your life. So, how do you rise above the critics and doubters? How do you stay focused when the world around you tries to pull you back into fear and disbelief? First, understand that criticism often comes from a place of fear or misunderstanding. When people see you stepping into something they don't understand, whether it's a dream, a goal, or a blessing, they may feel threatened, jealous, or even confused. They may project their own insecurities onto you, questioning why you deserve success or abundance. But here's the thing. Their doubts don't diminish your worth, nor do they alter God's plans for you. Just because someone doesn't understand your journey doesn't mean it's invalid. Their opinion is not the final say on your future. And that's where faith comes in. When you're faced with negativity, it's a test of your faith. It's an opportunity for you to double down on what God has promised you and choose to trust in His truth, not the lies of others. Think about the times in Scripture when God's chosen people faced mockery and doubt. Noah was ridiculed while building the ark. Abraham faced skepticism when God promised him a child in his old age. And David was underestimated by everyone around him, including his own family. But in each of these cases, the critics didn't get the last word. Noah's ark saved his family and a new generation of life. Abraham became the father of nations, and David became a king. Their faith in God's promises, even when others mocked them, carried them through the criticism and led them to victory. So how can you respond when others doubt your journey? Start by focusing on God's promises. Remember that He has already declared that you are blessed, chosen, and destined for greatness. His words are the foundation of your identity, not the opinions of others. Next, don't internalize the criticism. Just because someone questions you doesn't mean you need to question yourself. It's natural to feel hurt or frustrated when people don't understand your path, but it's important not to take their doubts personally. The journey you're on is between you and God. He's the one who knows the plans He has for you, and He will guide you every step of the way. Another powerful way to rise above negativity is to keep your eyes fixed on the bigger picture. When you're walking in God's abundance, you're not just living for today, you're living for the generations to come. The success you're stepping into isn't just for your own benefit. It's part of God's plan to bless others, to provide for those in need, and to further His kingdom. So when others mock or doubt you, remind yourself that your purpose is much bigger than their criticism. Also, surround yourself with people who uplift and encourage you. Find a community of believers who will stand with you in faith, who will speak life into your dreams, and who will remind you of God's truth when you're feeling discouraged. Sometimes, the best way to deal with critics is to limit your exposure to their voices and fill your space with those who align with the vision God has placed in your heart. Finally, remember that the more you step into the life God has called you to, the more the enemy will try to sow seeds of doubt, discouragement, and fear. It's a natural part of the process. But don't let it shake you. Instead, use it as fuel to press forward. When you feel attacked, turn to God's word. Let His promises be your shield, your armor, and your defense. Criticism is never easy to handle, but it's also an opportunity to strengthen your faith, deepen your trust, and stay grounded in what God has said about you. He has already equipped you with everything you need to rise above the noise. Your success is not dependent on others' approval. It's rooted in God's plan, and that plan is unshakable. So, when the critics come, and they will, remember this. God is on your side. His promises are true, and no amount of negativity can change what He has declared over your life. Keep pressing forward, stay focused on His truth, and trust that, just like the heroes of faith before you, your journey will lead to something far greater than you could ever imagine. When we talk about wealth, it's essential to remember that true abundance isn't just about accumulating more for ourselves. It's about using the blessings God has given us to serve others, fulfill our mission, and ultimately leave a legacy that honors Him. Wealth in its truest form is a tool that, when used with purpose, can bring about incredible change. It's not about hoarding resources or focusing solely on personal gain. It's about understanding that everything we've been given is a gift from God, and how we steward those gifts matters. The Bible is full of examples of individuals who understood the purpose behind their wealth. Think about Barnabas in the early church. He was known for his generosity, selling land and giving the proceeds to support those in need. His wealth wasn't for personal indulgence. It was a means to advance God's kingdom and meet the needs of others. Barnabas didn't just hold on to his resources, he recognized that his wealth was an opportunity to serve. Or take the story of the widow's offering in Mark 12:41-44. This woman gave all she had, 2 small coins, to the temple treasury. Though her contribution seemed small in comparison to others, Jesus commended her for giving out of her poverty, showing that her heart of generosity was what truly mattered. Even in her lack, she demonstrated abundance through her willingness to give. In the modern world, there are countless examples of people using their wealth with purpose to make a difference. Take someone like Oprah Winfrey, for example. Over the years, Oprah has used her platform and resources to create a lasting impact, whether it's through her charitable foundation, her support for education, or her work helping to uplift marginalized communities. Her wealth hasn't just enriched her own life. It has helped to transform the lives of countless others. And let's not forget about the incredible work being done by people like Bill and Melinda Gates. Their foundation, which focuses on global health, poverty alleviation, and education, has made a measurable impact on the world. Their wealth has been used to address some of the most pressing challenges facing humanity. They've shown that with financial freedom comes the opportunity and responsibility to serve the greater good. But it's not just about the billionaires and celebrities. You don't need to be a household name to have a purpose-driven wealth story. Every one of us, no matter how much we have, has the potential to make a difference. Perhaps you're supporting a local charity, helping a neighbor in need, or using your resources to provide opportunities for others to succeed. These acts of service, no matter how big or small, are powerful demonstrations of God's love and provision in action. When we view wealth through the lens of purpose, it shifts our perspective. We begin to see that financial abundance is not about building bigger houses or acquiring more possessions. It's about having the ability to do more for others. It's about using what we have to serve those in need, to empower the next generation, and to fulfill the mission God has placed on our hearts. Leaving a legacy is not just about what we accumulate in life. It's about what we give away. What will people remember about you when you're gone? Will they remember how much money you had? Or will they remember how you used that money to help others, to uplift communities, and to make the world a better place? God has entrusted us with resources, not for our own glory, but for His. And when we align ourselves with His purpose, we see wealth not as something to be consumed, but as something to be stewarded. This means being intentional about how we use our finances, making sure they reflect our values, our mission, and our commitment to serving others. True wealth isn't measured by how much we keep, it's measured by how much we give. When you use your abundance to bless others, you create a ripple effect that extends far beyond your lifetime. Your impact can live on through the lives you've touched, the causes you've supported, and the legacy of kindness and generosity you've left behind. So, as you step into the abundance God has planned for you, ask yourself this: how am I using my wealth to serve? How can I align my resources with God's mission? What kind of legacy do I want to leave? When you approach wealth with purpose, you unlock its true potential. You move beyond the transactional and into the transformational. You become a vessel of God's love, grace, and provision in a world that desperately needs it. And that is the kind of wealth that changes lives, not just your own, but the lives of everyone you touch. So how do you align with the divine abundance that God has already planned for your life? It's not just about waiting for blessings to fall into your lap. It's about taking intentional steps to position yourself to receive them. And the good news is, these steps aren't complex or unreachable. They're practical, everyday actions that anyone can incorporate into their life. Let's start with prayer. Prayer is one of the most powerful tools we have to align ourselves with God's will. It's in prayer that we connect with Him, seek His guidance, and open our hearts to His direction. When you pray, invite God into every area of your life. Your finances, your health, your relationships, and your purpose. Ask Him to reveal His plan for you, and trust that He will provide the wisdom and clarity you need to step into His abundance. Remember, God already knows what you need before you ask. Matthew 6:8. But prayer is about building a relationship with Him and expressing your trust in His provision. Another important step is affirmations. Our words have power, and when we speak affirmations based on God's promises, we're aligning our thoughts and beliefs with His truth. Start affirming God's abundance over your life. Say things like, I am a child of God, and His provision is limitless. Or, I trust that God has a plan for my life, and I am walking in His abundance. These declarations help rewire your mind to focus on God's promises, and they create an atmosphere of faith that attracts His blessings. Tithing is another key practice. Tithing, giving a portion of your income back to God, is a powerful act of faith and trust. It's a way of saying, God, I acknowledge that everything I have is a gift from you, and I am grateful. Tithing is not just about financial generosity. It's about recognizing that God is the source of all abundance, and that by giving, we're participating in His work here on earth. It's a reminder that our wealth is not our own, and it's meant to be used for His purposes. Gratitude is also essential in aligning with divine abundance. Gratitude is the key to unlocking more of God's blessings in your life. When you're grateful for what you already have, you open the door for even more to come your way. Take time each day to reflect on your blessings. Thank God for your health, your family, your home, your opportunities, and everything else you hold dear. Gratitude shifts your focus from lack to abundance, and it cultivates an attitude of expectancy for what's to come. These are all practical steps you can take to begin aligning yourself with God's divine abundance. They're not complicated. They're just about making space for God to work in your life. And as you incorporate these practices, you'll begin to see how they unlock doors to blessings, opportunities, and growth that you never imagined. But here's the thing. None of this will matter unless you take action. It's not enough to simply know these steps, you have to apply them. Today I want to challenge you. Take one step today to claim the abundance that God has already planned for you. It could be as simple as saying a prayer of gratitude, making a financial contribution, or speaking an affirmation of faith over your life. Whatever it is, take action, and trust that as you do, God will meet you right where you are, guiding you to the abundance He's prepared for you. Remember, divine abundance is not a future promise, it's a present reality. God has already ordained it for you. All you have to do is step into it. So, take that first step today and watch how God's blessings begin to flow in your life in ways you never imagined. You're already chosen, you're already blessed, you're already walking in abundance. Now, it's time to claim it.